Hello everybody, it is the Pauper J, and I am back after not making a video for a couple weeks. In the past couple days, my last video, which is Pauper Proliferate, which is a green-black deck, kinda spiked. So usually it would get about 15 views a day, and then boom, it got like 50 in one day, and then like 50 in the next. So apparently after declaring community college, did a video about Pauper, people were like, hey, I got some Pauper Proliferate cards coming around. I'm gonna go look up Pauper Proliferate. And then they saw my trash video. But today we are going to be talking about a different style of Proliferate, Zombie Proliferate. Zombies has already been a deck in Pauper for a very long time, being very valuable to just play a tribal deck and kill all your opponent's creatures. It's mono black, it's fun. But it's always had this little theme where it put neg 1 counters on your opponent's creatures and put +++ counters on your own. And in War of the Spark, we got a card called Lazotep Reaver. And this is the reason why the deck is about to be played. 2 mana, 1/2. When it enters the battlefield, it amasses 1. And if you don't know what amass is, and you haven't been paying attention to War of the Spark at all, although we're already in Modern Horizon spoilers, shh, I was busy. Pretend like nothing happened. But yeah, it amasses 1, which puts basically a 1/1 zombie onto the battlefield, but that 1/1 is actually the power of a counter on it, because it makes a zombie army, and it enters the battlefield as a 0/0, but has a +++ counter on it. So, there is a mechanic that also came out called Proliferate, which we actually do not run any of the new Proliferate in the deck. We actually run a really old card, and I'll get to that later. But the point of the deck is to be able to put neg 1 counters on your opponent's creatures and put +++ counters on your own, making your board have a power of like 10 while theirs has a power of none. Because we run so much removal, they won't know what to do. As I have done with prior videos, I am going to be doing this by mana cost. And starting this off, we are starting with our 1-drops. And our 1-drops in the deck consist of Carrion Feeder, Festering Mummy, and Ghoulcallers chant. Carrion Feeder and Festering Mummy is almost like a small mini combo where you can play Carrion Feeder on turn 1 and Festering Mummy on turn 2 and kill the creature and swing for 2. There's a lot of value right there. So Carrion Feeder is 1 black, it can't block, and if you sacrifice a creature, you can put ++ counter on it. Festering Mummy is a 1 mana 1/1 that when it dies, you may put a neg 1 counter on target creature. For one, that is a May ability, so if you are just trying to get in with Carrion Feeder and like you can't put a neg 1 counter, sometimes that will come up or something, you can do it if it is like a last ditch effort, but generally you're going to sacrifice Festering Mummy to Carrion Feeder. Carrion Feeder will get bigger and you'll kill or shrink one of their creatures, and if you have an opponent that isn't paying attention, you can just be like, okay, swing with Carrion Feeder. They'll be like, block. So you can sacrifice the Festering Mummy. Like, let's say they block with like a 3/3 or a 2. Block with a 2/2. They block with a 2/2. They block your Carrion Feeder. You sacrifice the Festering Mummy, put a neg 1 counter on that creature, and then Carrion Feeder gets its ++ counter. It's now a 2/2. That thing is now a 1/1. You kill the creature. There's a lot of instances of that happening. And then there's Ghoulcallers chant, a 1 mana sorcery that says you may return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand, or return 2 zombie cards from your graveyard to your hand. The zombie card thing is very relevant because there are actually some spells that are not a creature spell that are actually a zombie spell, or a shapeshifter spell, as you may, but that's what we're going to talk about. Moving on to our first 3 2-drops, we are going into Lazotep Reaver, Butcher Ghoul, and Nameless Inversion. Lazotep Reaver is a card that is making this deck possible. It is a 2 mana 1/2 that enters the battlefield and amasses 1. I talked about this in the beginning. But basically, with the Carrion Feeder from before, it enters the battlefield, you get a zombie with a ++ counter, and then you have this. So it's 2 mana, and it creates 2 creatures, and they're both relatively good. And because the mass is a ++ counter, that counter can be proliferated, blah, 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 blah. It just gives 2 sack outlets for Butcher Ghoul, not Butcher Ghoul, I've done it twice now, for Carrion Feeder. And then Butcher Ghoul is 2 mana for a 1/1 that has Undying. So he also can be sacrificed twice by Carrion Feeder. So Undying is whenever it dies, if it had no +1/+1 counters on it, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a +1/+1 counter on it. That's pretty good, pretty good. So that's another creature that's able to be sacked by Carrion Feeder multiple times. And when you're able to sacrifice a creature multiple times to a sack outlet, generally you're doing good. And the next card is a removal spell, and there was that one card that returns zombie cards from your graveyard, right? Up to 2 zombie, or actually it doesn't say up to, so you have to actually have 2 zombie cards when you do it if you need to get your Nameless Inversion back. But Nameless Inversion is a 2-drop tribal instant. It's a shapeshifter, and it has Changeling. This card is every creature type at all times. So, because it doesn't say a zombie creature card, it can grab Nameless Inversion. And that's one of the weird things about Magic the Gathering, because they haven't done that in a while, and people don't even think about it that often. But yeah, you can use that to grab a zombie and a Nameless Inversion, and you basically just drew 2 epic cards for 1 mana. And that's really good in a deck where you're able to just sacrifice your creatures and then get them back, putting bodies onto the battlefield. But it's a removal spell. Okay, so it says target creature gets +3, -3. The +3 isn't going to be relevant that often. But if you do have like a creature that is up to like 4 power, 4 toughness, you can be like, okay, swing with it. Oh, you were tapped out, blah, blah, blah. Get in that last 3 points of damage. That's rarely ever going to happen, but if it does, it'll feel good. Next up is some more 2-drops. We're playing 4 Diabolic Edict. It's literally just 2 mana. Target player sacrifices a creature at instant speed. This is really good against decks like Bogles, where because the Bogles you cannot target them, you're not going to put any -1/-1 counters on them. So if you can get rid of them with the Diabolic Edict, you can still just outvalue them on the board. And that is because Bogles would be a really tough matchup without it, due to the fact that all this removal that you're playing in the deck would be nothing. You wouldn't be able to do anything to them. That's not a game you're going to want to be playing with creatures that are 1/1s and 2/2s. That's really slow and really grindy. So you're really going to want to try to be able to Diabolic Edict them on turn 2, start swinging in, try to keep those creatures out of the battlefield. Next up we play 2 Sign-in Bloods, which is a sorcery that has target player draw 2 cards and lose 2 life. So not only can you use this to draw into more gas and able to find the cards you need in order to win the game, but if they're at 2 life or they're almost there or something, you can go ahead and just use it on them and just try to close out the game. Because, I mean, the fact that it's this target player and not just you is pretty valuable, and especially in a mono black deck where the double black doesn't really matter, it's pretty fine. And then there's a 6-drop. Wait, what's a 6-drop doing in the 2-drop slot? Well, it's because of its ability. You're almost never going to be able to hard cast this for 6 mana. We don't play enough lands for that. I've actually gone down lands compared to the normal lists, which usually run 22. But it cycles, and when you cycle it, you may have target player lose 1 life for each zombie in play. Well, Lazotep Reaver, guess what that does? It makes an extra zombie, and you can bring back your zombies a lot. So you're probably going to play this for like 2 mana. You're going to have like 4 zombies on the battlefield. Your opponent's going to end up losing 4 life, and then you're going to draw a card, because cycling lets you draw a card. Well, that's pretty good value right there. It's almost like a good bolt, but like it's really good. And the fact that you can play the 1 card that returns a zombie from your graveyard to your hand means if you have a lot of mana late game, you can just do that and just close out the game really quickly. And it's also good when your opponent has clogged up the board in a way you cannot deal with, which you should usually be able to, but if they've done it where you cannot swing in, it's going to close out the game real quick. We only run 3 of them, but we only run 3 of them because we run so much draw and ways to get it back that we don't want 2 of these in their opening hand, because we're just going to cycle them away for no value. Okay, everybody, going on to our 3-drops. Be prepared to be on the toilet for the next 2 hours, because shit's about to get spicy. Starting this off, we have our last creature in the deck, and it is Ghoulraiser, a 3-mana 2/2 that when it enters the battlefield, return a zombie card at random from your graveyard to your hand. So basically, it's a 3-mana 2/2 that always draws you a good card because you can't draw you a land because there are no zombie lands. So, also that was a movie, Zombieland. Ha ha ha! So funny. Yeah, but you always get a zombie out of it, or that removal spell, or the one that cycles and loses your opponent life. No matter what, you're gonna play this for 3 mana, and you are going to get something out of it. Whether or not it's a 1-mana 1/1 or a 2-mana creature that makes 2 power on the battlefield. It doesn't matter. You're going to get some sort of value on this. It's going to stop you from just not having anything in your hand. It replaces itself in your hand. You can Ghoulraiser and then accidentally grab another Ghoulraiser from your graveyard to your hand. That's enough value, and especially in an all-commons format, it's actually pretty good here. It's pretty ghoul here. Ha ha ha. But then the spicy stuff is that Grim Affliction, our proliferate card, and what makes this deck way different from other zombie lists. At least, I hope it makes it different. I want to feel special, guys. But for 3 mana, it's an instant that puts a -1/-1 counter on target creature and then proliferates. And if you don't know, and this is your first time seeing proliferate, it's you choose any number of permanents and or players with counters on them and give them another counter of a kind already there. I don't think the new errata, I don't think they actually have to have a counter there already. But, yeah. Although, I guess you have to have a counter to proliferate. If you put it on the stack, you'll be able to target something that doesn't have a counter, and then it resolves. You can put the counter that just put it. It's complicated, but at the end of the day, you're gonna have creatures with +1/+1 counters on them, and they're gonna have creatures with -1/-1 counters on them. So this is bare minimum. This is 3 mana. Put 2 -1 counters on target creature because then you proliferate that one. But when this gets good is when you have a Carrion feeder and a Festering mummy. You put a -1 counter on one of their creatures. Let's say they have 2 creatures. Put it on one of their creatures. Let's say they have both 2/2s as well. So they have 2 2/2s, and you have Carrion feeder and Festering mummy. You've sacrificed Festering mummy, put a -1 counter on one of their creatures. Then you go to their next creature, and you Grim Affliction it. So that one's basically going to get 2 9/1 counters and die. And the other one that has a -1/-1 counter on it, that one's also going to die because you're going to proliferate that. And then your Carrion feeder, that now has a +1/+1 counter on it because you sacrificed Festering mummy, that gets another +1/+1 counter. So, you just killed 2 creatures, got more power, like, what? It's basically a good situational board wipe, but at the end of the day, it's still a removal spell. It's still going to do something. Even if it doesn't kill the creature, like, let's say it's a Gurmag Angler, it's now a 3/3. You're still, like, getting value out of it. So as long as they have a creature, it's going to get some value, but for 3 mana, generally you get a lot of value out of it. This next card is Cartouche of Ambition, which is another card in the deck that puts -1/-1 counters on creatures. Enchant creature you control. When it enters the battlefield, you may put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. Not the one that you're enchanting, but any creature in general on the battlefield. Enchanting creature gets +1/+1 and has lifelink. This card mostly is in here actually against Barren, or another aggressive deck. So it enters the battlefield. Because there's so many 1/1s in the format, it'll most likely kill something, but if it doesn't, it just puts a -1 counter on for later to be proliferated. And then your creature, it now has lifelink and +1/+1. You put that on something like Carrion feeder, you'll swing with it while it's already on the battlefield. You're probably going to gain like 4 or 5 life if he's big enough, and that stops Burn from killing you. Like, they're going to have to remove all your threats and then just have enough gas just to burn you out. But that right there is the main deck. Let's go on to the sideboards. Okay guys, so I forgot to talk about my mana base, but I'm still going to go on to the sideboards and then tell you about this mostly Swamps mana base because the real cards are more fun. So, starting the sideboard off, we have 3 Duress. It's a sorcery, target player reveals their hands, chooses a non-creature, non-landfall card from it, that player discards that card. It's just really good against Spells Matters decks. I mean, you can side it in against Burn, but sometimes you really don't have to. Maybe it's smart to get rid of a couple of the removal spells that in your deck because a lot of Burn has a lot of spells in their hand. It's basically against Burn. If you can steal a If you can steal a lightning bolt from their hand, it's basically 1 mana, gain 3 life against burn, which isn't that bad. But there's other cards you'd be able to grab that maybe 4 or 5 damage. Burn has some good cards. Sometimes decided against burn. And then spells matters decks, like is it Blitz and stuff. Like they can play out their Kiln Fiend, and you can look at their hand and be like, haha, you are not playing that good card because that's gonna let me die on my next turn. The next card is Bojuka Bog and Crypt Creeper. So both of these cards are basically just graveyard hate. Bojuka Bog enters battlefield tapped, and when it enters the battlefield, exile all cards from target player's graveyard. You know what that means? Screw you, all you graveyard decks, because they don't have a graveyard anymore. And Crypt Creeper is 2 mana, 2/1. You can sacrifice it and remove target card in a graveyard from the game. This is really good against Reanimator style decks and like some graveyard decks that are just trying to like value out. Bojuka Bog is mostly in against stuff like Delver, not like Delver, the blue creature. I'm talking about like Gurmag Angler, where they delve into their graveyard. So if you can Bojuka Bog their graveyard, they're just kind of knocked out of the game for a minute because they need to refill that graveyard in order to be able to play all their big creatures. Crypt Creeper, on the other hand, isn't that great in that scenario due to the fact that it only hits 1 card. But Crypt Creeper is a zombie. Sorry, I've been playing a lot of Edgar Markov lately. But it's also a zombie, it has power and toughness, and if they go to reanimate something like, let's say, an Eldrazi Devastator, I think it is. No, Ulamog's Crusher or Eldrazi Devastator. I think they both see play in the format. Either way, if they go to reanimate that from the graveyard, you can be like, haha, nope. I think the card that they reanimate with actually gets you a card as well. So if you're smart, they target that. You sacrifice the Crypt Creeper. You go ahead and grab something else from your graveyard. So you got a card out of it, and they lost. They're just out of the game at that point. They have to have another one of those cards. I think it's called Exclude. And not only do they have to have another one of those cards, they also have to have another good target in their graveyard. So at that point, you just knock Reanimator out of the game. Next up, we have 2 more Cartouche of Ambitions, which are just for burn. Like I said before, burn's a really good deck in the format. Although our deck isn't that bad against it, having just more good stuff against it, make those matchups easier, it's fine. My sideboard is not perfect, I wouldn't say so, but to be able to just kick some faces in against burn is pretty good. Then we have Shepherd of Rot, which is a 2 mana 1/1, and it taps and has each player lose 1 life for each zombie in play. This is in a lot of sideboards of other decks. I'm not quite sure what they use it for, actually. I think it might be against when they clog up the board, but I don't think this deck is going to have that problem. So right now it's just in there for that reason alone. It also does close out the game. I mean, it has each player. It's really good with Cartouche of Ambition because if you're at 22 life and they're at 17, like when you Shepherd of Rot, you're still going to stay at the same stuff. You get to pick when you throw it off. I mean, if worst case scenario, you sacrifice it to a Carrion feeder when like Shepherd of Rot's going to die or something. Because remember, you can save Carrion feeder stuff. Although he cannot block himself, you can block with other creatures and then sacrifice him to Carrion feeder. And because a lot of the deck is 1/1s and 2/2s, you're not going to lose much power on the board until they kill your Carrion feeder. So yeah, Carrion feeder is a really good target to kill with removal spells. That's scary. Then we got Choked in Sands, a 3 mana sorcery that destroys target non-swamp land. If that land is non-basic, it deals 2 damage to that land's controller. Wait, this is Pauper. What non-basic decks are running around? There isn't no OG dual lands in this format. No, there isn't. But there's Tron. And with the new bannings of, I think, Gitaxian Probe and Gush and some other good card, freaking Blue got a lot taken away from him, Tron might make a comeback. And as they do, Choked in Sands will be sitting here in my sideboard to say no. We're going to run a total of 4 Choked in Sands just to bring them in because we have so much removal we're going to take out because Tron isn't going to play anything that scary. I mean, our creatures alone remove creatures, so we're going to bring these in. Turn 3, oh, you no longer have Tron. Swing at you again. Swing at you again. Swing at you again. We're going to try to kick Tron's butt with this Choking Sands because I don't think Tron is that great of a matchup in the first game because we're just going to put a power on the board. We're going to kill you in like 4 or 5 turns, but Tron's already got Tron and they're already doing Tronish things because they like to Tron you out of the game. Now let's go on to this really, really awesome mana base. I mean, like, the mana base is so expensive. Like, it's like 50,000% of the deck. Like, come on, man. Modern mana bases are so expensive. This is Pauper. Let's get into this. And then our mana base. Our beautiful mana base. Oh my god. We are running a total of 2 Barren moors. It's a non-basic land that enters the battlefield tapped. And it can add a black to your mana pool. Or you can cycle it for a black. Oh my god, it's a $10,000 card. Oh my god, it's gonna cost me my freaking wife and kids. And then on top of that, we run a total of 18 swamps. Oh my god, it's so expensive. Okay, guys, all bad acting and joking aside, yeah, super cheap mana base, mono black deck. This deck's only like you can get it online for 40 bucks or under. I mean, a lot of the stuff you're gonna pay is just for shipping. I ended up buying this deck like for about 40 bucks and another Pauper deck, and I spent around 100 bucks for 2 Pauper decks. It's just so cheap and just so fun because, I mean, not for your opponent, honestly, because everyone wants to play fun creature decks. Ha ha ha, I'm Slivers Tribal, I'm Allies Tribal, I'm a creature deck and I just want to have fun. Let's play tokens. This deck says no to that. This deck says, let me have creatures, but not you. It's the blackest no I've ever heard of. And I don't mean like race-wise, I mean like blue says no, so does black. But thank you guys for watching this video. The fact that it is like 10 minutes long, probably 12, 13, I have no idea. Me talking about it is literally just dragging it on. Let's get that fake YouTube money that I'm not making. But yeah, if you like the video, like the video. If you'd like to subscribe to my Pauper shenanigans, next video coming out will either be an up-and-coming Pauper deck that might be created by Modern Horizons, or a commander deck about Edgar Markov, because I'm building a spicy list for Edgar Markov right now. I'll just allude to it. Bolsa Citadel plus playing a whole bunch of aristocrats is pretty dang good. Peace, y'all.